All right, we're on air. Happy Thursday. It is October 26th. This is a meeting for Backdrop CMS development tasks. We usually start off with a section with announcements from the Project Management Committee, but we have no announcements from the Project Management Committee this week. So we're just going to roll right into new contributed projects. It's been a couple of weeks since we checked in. We have a lot of new projects that were added. Node Notify module, ridiculously responsive social share buttons, use infinite scroll, web components. I mean, there are a bunch of new releases for existing projects too. So thank you to all of our maintainers for all of the fantastic work that you guys have been doing in the absence of weekly meetings. So backdropcms.org, really quick, I've been doing a lot of talking to people about Backdrop because they're considering it for their projects, and the #1 request that I've been getting has been, can I see a list of sites that are using it? Which I mean, we identified that as being a priority a year ago and got it half built. And I feel like we're so amazingly close. I just want to spend a little bit of time on that showcase landing page, which is a theme in some style, in order to get that done and into our navigation, and then people can find it on their own, which I think would be great. If anyone has any design sensibility, though, the design that we have was made for the previous iteration of our site that had the sidebar and the drawer, and we might need a little adjustment to that to make it work in our current one-column layout. So if anyone has any time and wants to help me figure out how to change the background colors to make it work better on the new design site, I would appreciate that. If not, I will do the best I can to just get it up and then we can alter it later once someone sees it and realizes that it could be better. Also, on Backdrop's forum, we've had this long-standing issue that we wanted to create a forum for Backdrop, and we got it like 90% of the way there and then got stuck. Doc Wilmot reached out to us recently and said he has about a month of free time and wanted to kind of push that over the finish line. So I've turned over the code base and the issue queue and everything that he wants to do to him. And he's been making a bunch of progress on getting forum done, including recording some modules that'll help send notifications when people add comments places, which I think is going to be fantastic. So he says he's getting pretty close on that, which I think is great. And while he's been working on that, we've also gotten a bunch of requests via the contact form on backdropcms.org where people want to use it. So I think we've kind of got this perfect timing of people have things they need to ask, and we're making it possible so everyone can use it, kind of all coming together at once. So I think that's great. If anybody wants to help Doc Wilmot, log in, use the forum, see if there's anything that is missing or anything that you love, say thank you, that sort of thing. But it should be coming along. All right, let's talk about Backdrop CMS itself. Nate, turn it over to you.
Sure. I'll be the talking agenda this meeting. Backdrop 1.8.0 has now been out for over a month, and that's great. We're actually still on the initial release 1.8.0. We haven't had any strong need to release a 1.8.1, which is great that our minor release has been so stable. We also recently rolled out the Pantheon upgrade. Normally we wait a couple of weeks for bug fix release to come out, and then after the bug fix release, we then deploy out to Pantheon and the Docker upstreams and all of those places. But with an ongoing lack of serious issues, we went ahead and rolled out to all of the upstreams. So if you spin up a new Pantheon site or well, actually, let me hold the phone there on the Docker containers. Jeff, have they been updated?
No, I didn't update that yet.
Okay. Well, it's probably ready.
I'll do it.
Awesome. Well, in any case, if you do spin up a new site, or if you have a Pantheon site, the upstream there is updated, which is fantastic. And we have no real serious issues that would require 1.8.1 to be released in the immediate future. We do have a huge bucket of crossports from 777 that we are in the process of finishing up. There's 4 separate issues spanning from Drupal 7.50 up to Drupal 7.56. Like pretty much 3/4 of like all of these have been merged. And there's just, there are pull requests for every remaining issue, except for the most recent ones, but almost pull requests for everything. But all of the outstanding pull requests are all in a state that needs work. They're just like minor things, like something that was missed in the porting, or a single test or 2 that's failing. So yeah, the status of all of those they're in a really good spot. I think we just need to put in just a little bit more work to get them all up and passing tests. Let's see. I don't have any other things to call out, or at least there aren't any in the agenda for 1.8.1. Although there is still the GitHub issue tracker for 1.8.1, just issues that we think are of greater importance than just the general category of bugs that are in the issue tracker, and you can find those on GitHub under the 1.8.1 milestone. Okay, so let's talk about 1.9. 1.9 is the next minor release of Backdrop that is scheduled for January 15th, 2018. And right now, the main focus that we have for this release is completing the media functionality that we made really solid starts on in the 1.8 cycle, but didn't complete those. And so there's a major meta issue at issue 1448 that outlines all of the media initiative things that we would like to implement. But the ones in particular that are moving forward right now are 2796, which is the ability to edit an existing file. Right now, we have a file listing page, but the only thing you can do with files is delete them. This adds the ability to, the terminology was to change what file is associated there. So you can take a file and replace it with a different one is what it comes down to right now. If the next issue, 2632, is completed, that also makes it so that when you edit a file, you would be able to edit the fields that are on that file. And I'm just kind of acknowledging here that we have a little bit of a terminology problem, that when we say edit, that's the word we use for content. But when you edit a file, people think that that might mean like you manipulate an image, edit the image. And so
or text, it's a PDF.
Yeah, or edit the text in a PDF, or I don't know, the text in a document. So there's some outstanding UX concerns about just terminology there. But other than the UX problems, the only thing that editing an existing file has remaining on the technical side is an upgrade path that just creates the edits the view so that the edit links become visible, or whatever it is that we call those those new buttons. So from a technical side, that functionality is very, very close. We just need to work out some UX problems, which of course is not the easiest thing, but it's just a matter of finding the right thing there.
I don't think that's that big of a deal. I mean, if go to the edit forum and you have the option to replace the image and then edit the links, I think people are going to get it very quickly. So I don't think we should be too hung up on that.
Well, like everybody who tested it after we did it didn't understand what it did. So it was a much bigger problem than I'd originally assumed. I also assumed that because we did the same thing that happened in Drupal 7, people would figure it out. But I wrote the thing and then Nate used it and he couldn't figure out how it worked. I was just like, this is a problem.
Well, okay. those things had to do with the creation of like lots of different files and leaving the old file in place.
But even like the file name handling, there's a lot of little things in there that make it super confusing.
Okay.
Yeah, file name is still an outstanding problem.
For people familiar with Drupal in Backdrop, when you say editing a file, then they immediately understand that this is a fieldable entity that includes the file, the actual file. But for outsiders or first timers, when you say edit a file, they immediately think the actual file.
Yep.
Not what comes with it. Yeah.
But if Nate's having problems using it, then I think he's pretty familiar with 777.
Yeah, and there were a bunch of other people too that had used 777, and when they tried it in Backdrop, still didn't get it. So I think we just need to try it some more, maybe try some different terminology, maybe just try like changing the way that fields work. It just needed a little more love, and we couldn't put it in the way it was.
And this is the ticket 2796.
Yes, 2796 is the issue number where we're trying to work out these UX problems.
All right, I'll try to take a look at it.
Coolio. So let's see. So that issue is in a pretty good spot, especially from a technical standpoint. It's really solid. UX standpoint, we have some outstanding questions to work out. The next issue, 2632. We had some really, really great work on this issue by Al Roscoff. Let me pull this up in the, oh, I already did. This issue, although it's marked needs work, which is true, it does a lot of really amazing stuff. It's pretty much a full port of the file entity module, which we already have. File module in core and entity module in core, but we don't have them available. Like files don't have types and they're not fieldable. And this is a pretty comprehensive port of the file entity module from 777, including upgrade path and new configuration and everything. So there's a lot of really amazing work in here, but it might, I think my biggest thing with it is it might just be too big for a single pass. And there might also be some things that, what was appropriate for 777 might not be super appropriate for Backdrop. But every time we make a change like that, it incurs some, upgrade cost issues. So I'm formulating my feedback on that one to post there, although I did do a code review and it's just got a couple of minor issues that I've pulled up. So anyway, still, it's really great to see all of that work, and the code that has been ported is really quite excellent. So thanks, Al, for putting that together. And last one that we've got here in the near future category is the ability to upload a file manually, which is 2633. This one, I haven't actually taken too much time looking at it, although I know Jen did a lot of the initial porting. Uploading a file or creating a file from scratch is a really complicated procedure in file entity module in 777. We may end up simplifying that down a bit, like reusing the form that is available in 2796 in the ability to edit a file. But we haven't really established like where we are with that functionality yet. So that one, probably a follow-up after we get the other two knocked down, I think.
Sorry, does this include the use case where you, for example, people think or expect to upload a file in a certain directory and that becoming available sort of like in the middle of your browser? Whereas in the Drupal world, if you wanted to do something like that, you would have to go through the UI so that a file entity is created that points to that file. Are we trying to solve that problem?
It's not... this is like if you were on the file listing page and you just wanted to upload a file to your site that wasn't associated with any content at all. This is that part of the problem. You are right that after you uploaded a file separately, you should be able to go to a piece of content and reuse that file. But that's not covered in this issue. This is just purely creating a file that's not associated with any content.
What happens, like, we have a use counter for files, and then what happens to the use counter for such files if they don't belong, if they're not being used anywhere? Will they be...
So the use counter is 0. but the file is marked as permanent. I think that's right. Isn't that right, Jen?
Yeah, and there's a I think in the edit form in file entity you can also choose to mark a file as permanent or not, or maybe it's a bulk operation on the file manage file list, so that if you had uploaded one and you did want it to not be permanent, you'll have the opportunity to mark it as temporary. Or I think maybe it's like you delete it and it becomes automatically marked as temporary.
Yeah, I think what that would mean, getting into the weeds here, would be if you uploaded a file manually, it would be marked as permanent. But then you used that in a piece of content by reusing it once we have a media browser, and then you deleted that piece of content that was the only place that file was used, the file would end up getting deleted.
That's not a good thing.
Because deleting it marks it as temporary if it's not used anywhere else.
Yep.
That should, it seems like that should be a setting, whether to automatically clean up files or not.
We don't have that media browser thing now, though, do we?
No,
yeah.
I mean, but like once we move forward and once people can create these files that aren't related to other content and stuff like that, we probably should have the option of turning off the garbage collection or setting it to 30 days if it's not used, or some more options like that. Because I can imagine someone who has an image on one page wants to put it on another page. So they're like, oh, well, I'm going to deselect it from the field in this page. Okay. And then you go to the other page to add it, and it's gone because it was cleaned up.
Yep, yeah. There were a lot of issues filed in the d.org queue, and I think we had at least one like that we considered a data loss issue. This is a very important thing. Like, we should reconsider the automatic garbage collection, because for some people things like that are not garbage. Like, yeah, they should stay.
Especially once we have like the media browser, because then like people expect it to still be in the library after they delete it from one node, because you're like, when you're uploading it, you're adding it to the media library, you know? So I think like the expectations of these files are going to change a lot when we have more functionality around managing the files.
Yeah. I think it also like better matches our model of like, we're going to protect you rather than keep your disk clean.
Yeah.
So that might be good.
And once we have all the views that are, managing all these things, like it should be possible to pull up a list of files that aren't used anywhere, and then select all and delete them.
Yeah.
Like right now there isn't that user interface, so it makes sense to do it automatically. But in the future, once we have all this stuff done.
Yeah.
Do we have?
I feel like there's a way. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Is there a ticket that would be best to discuss this in, or should we create a new ticket for
it? It might. Gosh, it's kind of in the middle of some other things. It might be better to have a new one actually, because like uploading a file manually is one problem, reusing a file is another, and those already have issues. And then like what to do about the cleanup seems like another separate thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you create a new one, Mike, can you link it from the file management meta?
Link it to what?
The file management meta issue, just so we don't.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like we shouldn't get rid of the auto cleanup that is there if you're uploading content, or uploading files specifically with content, like you're creating content and you're uploading files, that those should be bound together. But if you're uploading a file individually, perhaps we need a new flag or new column in the database that is like standalone, so the file itself is considered standalone if you upload it manually. And that just makes it so that file module adds a usage from the file to itself. And that makes it so it would never be cleaned up, because it always has a usage, and that usage is the file entity itself.
Yeah, I think we should discuss this further in the ticket. I think that yes, or we could just, let's just discuss it further in the ticket.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Okay. Okay, those are the media library stuff. And would you cross-link that to 1448 when you make the issue? the media issue 1448 is our primary objective for 1.9. And for now, that's the scope of, maybe not of our ambition, but our target for 1.9. We don't have any other ones that we call it during the meeting quite yet. But we also have a chunk of 1.9 issues that are achievable, many of which actually have pull requests already that are in the 1.9 milestone. So Jen, do we want to go through any of those that have come up recently, or should we just carry on?
I don't think so. I don't think any of them are big enough that we need to like drive focus to it other than the file stuff. There's a bunch of little fixes.
Okay.
There's some cool stuff in there if anyone's interested.
But we're not going to tell you about it.
Not cool stuff. You have to read it on your own. You only have to hear about the hard things.
Okay. Well, in that case, that's it for the 1.9 update. And we move into just general discussion and Q&A. We've got a couple of items here to recap, and then maybe we'll go into questions. Jen, do you want to go through these?
Sure. Bad cancels last week, hence us not having meetings on Thursday. Let's see. Our summit was on Wednesday. I thought it went pretty well, except that we had a fire drill, and it wasn't a drill. Somebody actually broke a sprinkler somewhere in the building, so we had to like evacuate. We lost like an hour of time. So that was a little bit of a downer. We somehow made it work. We shuffled everything around. We got Matt Cheney from Pantheon to talk about Pantheon support with Backdrop. We had Jeff do a talk about Lando support for Backdrop, which is great. I thought maybe the Lando stuff was like a little bit above a couple of people's heads in the room, but everybody was super interested that it had the support, so that was a good start. And I know some people like Tim instantly set it up and started using it after he saw that, so it was still really beneficial. Let's see. On Thursday, we did an all-day Backdrop training, and I thought that went really well. Oh, both on Wednesday and on Thursday, the people from attending the event wanted to go to lunch with us, which I thought was good. Sometimes they're like, oh, God, getting away from these people, and then they're not interested in asking their own questions. But this time was great. Everybody was like, let's go to lunch. I have all these questions. And I felt like in the training, everybody who was in the training they were not just there to like experience Backdrop, which is what I felt last year. There were some people who were just kind of curious about it. Every one of those people had their own project that they wanted to work on, and so every time they learned something, they tried to like apply it to what they were going to be doing later, which I thought was really interesting. So that I thought was a different place than we were in a year ago. And then on Friday we did a session, and there were I think there was only one person that overlapped between any two of our events. The session had also a bunch of great people in it. I really like it. We do a demo of Backdrop in the session, and I always think I'm pointing out, like, this is how the software should work. It's obvious that these things should happen. But there was a guy in the back row who was watching the demo, like, which I thought was fantastic. I'm like, we're surprising people. This guy is in such, like, you know, so impressed by the software that his mouth actually fell up. It was fantastic. I haven't had that kind of feeling where we're actually impressing someone that much with the software in a while. So that was really good. And there were a couple of people who, we ran right up to the end of the allotted time. And so we stepped outside, and there were a bunch of people that came with really specific questions about their own projects too right afterwards. So I think we're in a different place now than we were a year ago, or a lot of people are still kind of in the wait and see mode. Where now it's like, no, I have to make a decision, and I need, you know, answers to my specific problem, which is great. I think the interest is real as opposed to theoretical. That's good. Did you want to add anything, Nate? Nate, you're muted.
No.
Okay.
Also was, I put an mention here. It was great to see some of our contributors that came to Bad Camp, and we got to meet them in person. And Alex is also here in the Hangout, so awesome. Alex, thanks so much for dropping into the meeting, and also for coming and meeting in person. It's really awesome. So anyway, it was fantastic. Alex wasn't our only contributor that was there. And so it was really just fantastic to kind of, I don't know, get a small group of the gang together and be all in the same place. So I think Bad Camp kind of continues to be right now our central like annual event, largely because they're so welcoming and they've got also have a huge number of attendees. So it's this perfect intersection of a large group of people that are interested, like as a pre-made audience, and also very welcoming. And for, I have to say, for Jen and I, also convenient because because it's right here where we live. So anyway, it was great. It was great Bad Camp, and we'll probably be reprising that once again next year.
Next up, Nonprofit Developer Conference, one of our favorite conferences, also in the Oakland area, which is really convenient. It's a very different kind of event than a Drupal camp. All of the sessions are impromptu, no slides allowed. It's all just kind of passionate speeches. But I really, really get a lot out of that every year. So if anyone's in the area or wants to come to the area, I recommend Nonprofit Developer Summit. If you can find it, you just Google Nonprofit Developer Summit. You'll find it.
At some point, there was this idea that there would be a backdrop event, even an online thing. Is just making sure that this is at the back of our heads.
Yeah,
maybe organize it at some point.
Definitely in the back of our heads. I think Jonathan Daggerhart had volunteered to help us figure out how to organize an online conference. He'd done stuff like that before, but I know he's been whisked away and super busy lately. But we can definitely check back in with him and see if that seems like something we should move forward with. I think I also specifically said, let's not worry about it till after Bad Camp. And he thought that was fine. That might align better with his schedule. So now that it's after Bad Camp, we can try. All right, so one of the things Alex had asked in the chat for the Drupal Hangout was specifically around similar or duplicate modules. This is a problem that the Drupal community has been suffering from for a really long time, where there's often 4 or 5 ways to do the same thing. And they're all very similar, but they all have slight differences, and that makes it really hard on new people to know which one of those choices is the best choice for them. I know that I talked about this with a couple of other people in the Vector community really early on. We noticed we already had like 3 meta tag module solutions, and it came up in one of those issue queues. One of the things we mentioned doing was creating a specific forum topic just for talking about module comparisons. We could have like one type of issue that has the same kind of grid as we use in the Drupal groups thread, where people used to create those, and it might be easier to manage if it was all in kind of one central forum category. But I don't know if that's going to solve our problem. I mean, I think we'll probably be a little bit better off than Drupal just because our history is a little shorter, and so we've had less time for people to come up with crazy new ways to do things. But I have noticed that we are kind of starting with crazy new ways to do things because Backdrop is something new. So a lot of people are thinking about writing things just for Backdrop rather than importing things from Drupal. So I think it would be good if we came up with a solution or at least ideas on how we can fight this particular problem, or if we are just going to say we can't fight it, that's going to be how it is. How do we help our users navigate that situation a little bit more easily? So does anyone else have any thoughts or feelings on that? Like, should we? I know, Gregor, you've been doing a little bit of this in the issue queue.
So there's a couple of issues there. Let me address, I think, one of the things that Alex has asked. So when we port modules from D7, it's best, I feel, if we keep parity so that we don't confuse people, and always also do not mess up their upgrade paths if there are some. Now, with regards to what you were saying, I think that we will have less of a problem because we don't have such a big crew and people of porting stuff. But if they do, I'm guessing that they will pick the most popular modules, the respective ones from d.org. So I don't think we have many chances to just have the sloth of, like, all these similar modules from the 7 being ported at the same time. Will probably be one at a time. So there will be less options, I guess, but maybe that's a good thing. Still, as I said, I believe that if we are to port a module from D7, it's best that we keep the namespace the same so we don't confuse people. If we want to, I don't know, join efforts to merge projects, I think it's best if we name them something else. Yeah. And
one thing too that I've been thinking about is rather than porting a module from 777, writing an upgrade path from the 777 module to the new like winner in terms of if there are 3 that are all similar and we all choose one. Like for example, reference, right? We have
I was about to say that, yeah.
In references, and right now I'm starting to work on a site that has an upgrade from 7 to Backdrop that is using both references and entity reference. Yay! And so what I thought I would do for that site is just spend that, rather than investing in any of the time porting stuff, I'm just going to take that time into working on the upgrade path to get from both of those to reference. And I don't yet know exactly why references was used in one place and entity reference was used in another place and what the requirements are for each of those. But it would be great if our reference module had a comparable equivalent feature set wise for whatever those needs were. And I'm okay with that being like a 80% use case. Like we don't need to get 100% of all of the features. That would be ridiculous. But like in terms of 80% of what people need, that's fine. And then if there's something crazy that my site is doing that needs something different, there can be an add-on module for the crazy thing. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, is being like, well, I'm already using 2 different solutions. I'd like to have them on the same one. In Backdrop, we have kind of picked a favorite. Let's see if I can invest that time in upgrade paths instead of porting to other things. So that could also happen too. But I think that the kinds of people you're going to get trying to write upgrade paths from 777 to Backdrop alternate versions of modules that's going to be a much more limited set of people than people who are like, I'm building a site. How do I know which one to use? And I think having a tool for those people to be able to make that decision would also be really valuable. So if there are 3 versions of some project like meta tags, like having a list of like, this is what the meta tag module will get you, and this is what its long-term roadmap is, and this is what the, meta light or whatever module will get you, and this is what it is planning on doing. All of those, lists of things that help people make decisions are also really valuable.
One thing that I would like to mention, and it's related to this discussion, is, and I would love to see it in the 1.9 roadmap, is our respective solution for the DH experimental modules that we have discussed. So if we get that in place, it depends where people are looking for their modules. Like if they go to the GitHub queue to search for their modules, they will probably get into that problem of, I have multiple modules, which one do I choose? But if we have these recommended, or we still need to figure out the terminology, modules, and people try to install something or set something via the project installer, if something is the recommended, like there's multiple gains to do that. There will be a sort of like marketing gain, showcasing what we are considering of perhaps adding to core. We would gain more testing audience, and also address part of the issue that we just discussed now. So if there's multiple modules, when you search for reference or references, there would be one that is, a target, a possible target for core. So people, will avoid having multiple modules just because people will be using the endorsed one, so to say.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. If you could help me brainstorm on what recommended modules might be. I mean, obviously we just touched on 2 of them, reference and meta tag. But if you know, because you watch people port things, you know what people are working on. If there's anything else that comes to your mind being like, this is something we should recommend, let's try and set that up and see where we need to. Because I feel like it's close in terms of We just need to figure out like what pieces we're missing in terms of getting that actually promoted.
Yeah,
it's,
it's easier as in the first thought iteration of a plan of how to implement that was to do a similar thing that a D8 core does, just include these with core. But our solution, the thought of, we have project browser there, so we just, tag something as, we don't include it with core, but at the same time, we just tag it and advertise it. So I think that it will take less effort, so to say, and it will cause less problems.
Yeah. I just don't know, like, what, so there's two places we have to affect the output in Backdrop itself and on the module search page. And I think the search page is pretty easy, like we can just add some CSS to our site. But in Backdrop, we need to figure out how we can like highlight something that's being featured. So we need to figure out some way to like manually change the weighting of search results. Which I don't know, Nate, if you know how the module, the project browser search, does that work the same way that page on backtopcms.org works?
So you mean in order to have the recommended results come up first?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has a sort by relevant option, and it passes that to backdropcms.org, and then backdropcms.org is responsible for the sorting.
Okay.
But it doesn't really know how to deal with relevant. Like, I don't think that the order is actually, I don't think relevant actually even does anything. If anything, it probably just sorts by usage. So the most popular modules are at the top right now. So it actually, I mean, it's kind of nice that it's already sending that information, the request to sort by relevancy, but we need to actually teach backdropcms.org what that really means in order to change the order.
There was a feature where you can, like, if this is a checkbox in the respective module nodes in d.org, sorry, in backdrop.org. What am I thinking now? Is that a search API that allows you to specify sort of like the weight that its field like has in search results? Is that it?
Yeah, it does. In the search module lets you specify like what things are more or less important. Although I think some people have found that just kind of muddies the water more than it really helps.
Is this something, so if this is all happening, all the searching is happening on backupcms.org, can we just alter the search query and have it include this check, like the results of this one field, where it's like, if this box is checked, always put it at the top of the results?
We have a couple of issues, by the way, with the search functionality. I think it's both on backdrop.org and the project browser, where results are not being returned correctly. Like, even like you search for devel and it comes like a third or a fifth option, and then some unrelated modules come on top, something like that.
So we might need to set up some other module on backupcms.org to fix this search anyway. And if it was something like Search API that let us control which fields.
You're probably right. Searching for devel is.
I think that same problem happened on Drupal for a while too. Like just the built-in search, like when you take multiple fields into account, like it doesn't weight the title field more heavily. I remember that being a problem on Drupal.org.
Yeah, we need to take a look at this. And this is it's backdropcms.org custom code, as far as I know. Like the thing comes in and then it's just like, how do I deal with this? And then it's all just custom the way that we have that written, like what to deal with the search queries, I think. something is definitely a little bit off here, though.
I'm going to ask something embarrassing. I don't have my personal computer, so I don't have my bookmarks. What is the GitHub repository for the websites and all the related things?
Backdrop ops / backdrop CMS.
Ops. Okay, that was it.
Yeah, the let me see if I can find this. It's the Borg PBS module. I know it's kind of hilarious, but that's Borg backdropcms.org project browser server.
Okay, and that's where the search query is.
Yep.
Okay. I'll take a look at that and see what's going on. Browser server. Okay. And then the last thing was to talk about translation in international internationalization. So I think what our plan for that is right now is to create a whole bunch of issues in the I-18N issue queue to identify things that we think are really important for backdrop users in terms of what needs to be ported, what's already ported, what's not ported, and try and make sure that translation is at least as solid in backdrop cities 7. Hopefully we'll identify places where we can do a better job and figure out what it is that we need in core to make translation easier on people. We do have that one issue about config translation that is currently scheduled for backup 1.9. But I think we should kind of take a look at the translation world as a whole and see. I know there's still a bunch of pain points in 777 translations for people, trying to figure out how we can make that better.
Olaf wanted me to mention regarding this that he's working on making Backdrop for Good internationalized site as a specific use case. So if anybody's interested in participating over there, he's got a tag for issues that you can say internationalization, and then hopefully we can flesh out some specific things that we need to address in core based on what we find in that specific case.
That's great. What languages are you starting with?
I'm not sure. He's begun the initial work in terms of like setting up the project and then figuring out what modules he wants to get over there. But I know he speaks German, so that seems like a likely candidate.
Okay. I would also recommend Spanish if you needed more than one language. I think that's where we've got a lot of Spanish-speaking backdrop people. That might be a good target audience for people in backdrop for good sites too. Right, is there anything else that wasn't on the agenda that we should talk about today? I know we've used almost all of our time.
With this news, if anyone remembers, he's monitoring, like he's watching the WordPress guy from Greece, Vagelis Dreyer. So he said on the 24th that he has partially translated Backdrop CMS for when it's needed. So I'll just pop a link there.
Okay.
This is related.
Okay. Well, looks like we should call it. Thank you, everybody, for joining. What a good group. I guess this is what happens when we don't get our backdrop in for 2 weeks. Then everybody's like, "Oh my God, I have to get the next meeting." It's been so long.
For me, it's been more than 2 months actually. So missed you all, guys.
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining, and thank you, everybody, for watching. And we'll catch you guys again next week.
Cool. See you guys later.
All right. Goodbye.